dealer button. A white disc is a marker used to indicate the player who is the dealer, and the player last to act in the hand. The deal commences to the player to the immediate left of the player who has the dealer button. The dealer button moves one position to the left after every hand. Texas Hold'em poker is one of the most famous forms of poker, and it can be played in two ways: the cash game, which is also sometimes called a ring game, and the tournament format. Now the rules are pretty much the same, but the structure is very different. In a cash game, a player can walk away from the table whenever he or she pleases. In this type of format, players tend to take more risks, because if you bust out and run out of chips, you can always buy more. In a tournament, you can only buy in once, and it tends to be more of a marathon rather than a sprint. Chips are looked at as bullets and lifelines, and players can't play too risky or as loose as they would on a cash table, because once you bust out, you're out of the tournament. Nice game. As poker pro David Saab said right after he won the first ever Asian poker tour in Manila, cash games are like a poker player's day job, while a big tournament is more about prestige and honor. Nam Lee. Nam Lee has won over $6 million in career earnings. Nam's biggest career cash so far came in the 2006 World Poker Tour Bay 101 Shooting Star event. Nam also finished second in the Card Player 2006 Player of the Year final standings. In 2008, he won the High Rollers event at the APPT Macau for $473,915 and followed that up a little over a month later with a second place finish at the $15,000 buy-in WPT Championship at the Festa Al Lago Classic. Location, location, location. That's a word that you always hear when you're starting out a business. In poker, it's very similar with the word position. So with me to discuss his favorite position on the poker table is Nam Lee. So Nam, we're talking about positions here, so I'm wondering, if I was playing, what would be the best position for me to be on in the poker table?
Well, in poker, you always want to be in the position where you act last.
Okay.
For a few reasons, you get to see what your opponents do before you act.
Okay.
Which you get information before it's your turn to act. And in poker, knowledge is power.
Okay. So on the table, where would that position be?
The best position to be pre-flop would probably be the button.
Okay.
Because there's only two players that act after you act.
Okay.
And for the rest of the table, you see what they do before you act yourself.
Okay, so if I was, say, an aggressive player, would you want to be behind me, or?
If you were an aggressive player, I would want you to my right, because you're probably going to be playing a lot of hands, and I get to see what you do first before I have to act myself. So I prefer all aggressive players to my right.
To your right, so I guess all the conservative ones obviously are to your left.
Opposite.
Is that, you said that's what you prefer, is that in the case of everyone, or, I mean, is that just a personal preference?
No, I think for everybody, I think it's going to be to your advantage if you have the aggressive to your right and the passive players to your left, because the passive players, they tend to fold more hands. They only play premium hands, so you kind of get to gauge, you kind of assess, you know what they're going to do.
Okay.
Before you act.
Those are the tight players, so basically unless they've got
and they don't defend their blinds as much, and it's very easy to steal their blinds and antes, which is a big part of strategy when it comes to tournament poker.
Just keep on stealing the blinds just to up the antes
and it's very easy. The game is a lot easier when it's set up that way, and that's the ideal way most players should want their tables to be. Okay,
you mentioned the button earlier, so what exactly is the button and how important is that to be in that position?
When you're on the button, anytime there's a flop, doesn't matter how many players you're with, the player on the button always has the right to act last.
Okay.
So then again, you get to see what's going on before you.
Okay.
Let's say if there was a raise and re-raise, now
you can fold.
You can fold your hand without costing you any extra money. Or like say if it's checked to you, you can get a free card when you're on the button. So it's always best to act after you see what's going on.
So it's a really powerful position on the poker table. So would you say if I had like a 10-3 and I was at the button and everybody just, you know, checked to me and then I just...
Well, here's an example of position. Let's say if you had like King 10 under the gun, which is the first position to act. King 10 is an easy fold. It's not a strong hand. But the same hand on the button, folded to you, it becomes a strong hand, because if you make a standard three times the big blind raise, which is standard raise, you only have to beat the small blind and the big blind, and that way you can pick up their blinds plus the antes.
Well, I learned a lot about your favorite positions on the poker table, that is. So thanks so much, Nam, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And now you know what Nam Lee's favorite positions on the poker table are. While seated at the dinner table in a fine dining restaurant, there are several rules that you must follow. There are things that you need to know, like which fork to use. While at the poker table, it's no different. There are several things that you must know that you should not do. Do not ever look at other players' cards. That's just plain cheating. Do not act out of turn. Would you like it if other people cut in front of you in a line? Probably not. Plus, it gives added information to other players as to how many people will be joining the hand. Do not blame the dealer if you lose a hand. They have no control as to what comes out. Do not share information with other players. Telling a player what your cards are is considered collusion, and that is cheating. If you can avoid all these simple situations, then you're sure to be loved at the poker table. Well, that is until you take away everybody else's chips. Under the gun. Term used to describe the first player to act after the big blind. This position will be to the immediate left of the big blind. Coming up, find out how to set a trap and check out the latest poker fashion.